Hello and welcome to the Moses Lake Community Initiatives Update. My name is Annie Fisher. I am a local business person and owner and community member and founding board member for Moses Lake Lead. I'm joined today by our City of Moses Lake Police Department Chief Kevin Fuhr and Carrie Cortez, our Grants and Homeless Coordinator for the City of Moses Lake. So prior to the pandemic, Moses Lake Lead had done a community survey, and from that survey, we found 11 topics that were consistently mentioned. And as a group, we plan to have a community summit to discuss those issues. And then the pandemic hit, and our summit had to be postponed. And as we started to attempt it again, we had to postpone again due to a recent rise in cases taking place now. But we wanted to bring an update on these topics and many of the things that are happening that are moving forward on these issues. And so this video series was created. I've asked our guests today to join us to cover the status and possible solutions for issues in our community of homelessness, gangs, drugs, and crime. Our survey indicated that the public is concerned about these issues and what is being done to improve in these areas of concern for the safety and well-being of all of our Moses Lake residents. Chief Fuhr, I know the issues of gangs, drugs, and crime are very complex and they're constantly evolving, but one that we've struggled with a bit in our community. Let's break down each issue a bit. The issue of gangs in our community is better than it was back in the 90s, but recently things have seemed to tick up a bit and increase. It also seems gangs are recruiting members at a younger age. Can you tell me more about this? Oh, you're on mute.
Technology, gotta love it.
I know, right?
So as you mentioned, our gang activity back in the 80s and the 90s was pretty high. We were experiencing a lot of shootings, unfortunately at the time, a lot of homicides. And a lot was done back in the 90s to address the issue and to try to put more emphasis on ending the violence. And the solutions that they put in place back in the 90s and 2000s, it worked. And we saw a significant decrease in our criminal activity. We saw less shootings, less homicides, and that continued through the 2000s and 2000 teens. And even in the early, when I got here in 2016, we hadn't had a whole lot of gang activity. It would pop up here and there. We would have some shootings or some graffiti and stuff like that, but nothing really significant. And in my 5.5 years up until 2021, we had not had a gang-related homicide in those 5 years. We had had a few shootings, but not many. And again, we saw a little bit of graffiti in that time frame, but not a lot. In 2021, actually in 2020, I attended a conference regionally with other chiefs and sheriffs in the Central Basin, and they noted an uptick in gang violence throughout the area. And we also saw that uptick. We saw a lot of gang graffiti starting to pop up, which we continue to deal with now. We saw younger youth that were getting more active in gang activity. And unfortunately, this year we have seen more violence. We've seen a lot more shootings, and unfortunately have also seen a homicide this year. Now, what we're doing to address that is we started about 3 years ago now, a street crimes unit. That our street crimes unit is two undercover detectives that work gangs, drugs, and guns, and that's all they really work is focusing on our gang issue, our gun and violence issue, and our drug issue. They were very successful in reducing the amount of gang violence and also our drug issues in the community, so much so that this year we decided to add 2 more detectives, so we've upped it to 4. However, with the rise in youth, and actually going back to the youth, we also, a couple of years ago, increased our school resource officer program from 2 school resource officers to 4, hoping to make better contacts with kids at a younger age in the school system. We were finding that when kids hit that middle school age or early high school age, it was too late. The impact that we were having on them wasn't nearly as successful. So we found that we needed to have more contacts with these youth in the grade schools, and so we added the 2 school resource officers to have more interaction with kids in the junior highs, but also to reach out to the youth in the middle or grade schools. And so that has been successful. This year, nobody quite knows why we've seen an uptick in criminal activity. We have 2 gangs in the community that are feuding right now. But again, we have focused our efforts on reducing that. We're working more with our federal partners than we ever have. People from ATF, people from the FBI, people from the Marshal Service to locate our violent offenders and make sure that they, when they commit a criminal activity, that they spend a lot of time in jail to keep our community safe. And so that's kind of what we've been doing over the last 5 to 6 years when it comes to our gang activity.
Awesome. That's great. It's nice news to hear that we're increasing on some of those resources that we've got. That's amazing. All right. So the issue of drugs. So in our community seems to have drugs seems to sort of be a rampant issue. I know our city works with resources to refer people to some of the resources we have, such as Grant Integrated Services, now known as Renew. Can you talk more about what else is being done on this issue and what some of your challenges are in doing so?
So, I'm gonna reiterate some of the things I just talked about with the gangs. Our street crimes unit, again, gangs, drugs, and guns is what they focus on. And and I mentioned this just a minute ago, we work very well with our federal partners. Now, we had a public forum about 4 years ago in Moses Lake where we had the head of the Drug Enforcement Administration come to Moses Lake and one of our local U.S. representatives. And we did a town hall meeting talking specifically about the drug issue in Moses Lake. Now, our drugs in this area come up from Mexico. Our methamphetamine and our heroin are all coming up out of the south. Moses Lake is close to what is considered the hub. Most of those drugs, when they come up to this area, they end up in the Yakima Valley. And because we're so close to the Yakima Valley, we are a spur that is close enough to the hub that we end up with a lot of these illegal narcotics in our community. And you can see that with the effects of the heroin and methamphetamine use in and around our community. So our street crimes detectives work closely with those federal partners that when we get information that there are shipments coming up or that we have known drug dealers in our community, that they focus on getting that person in custody, try to get the drugs off the street, and then when we can, we seize anything that we can that is proceeds of the drug sales to take away everything that they've got, hoping to make an impact not just on that person, but also on those others that are selling, showing that if you are caught doing this, we're going to take your house, your cars, everything you've got, so that we're not giving them the opportunity to continue. One of the challenges we face is earlier this year, the Washington Supreme Court vacated our personal drug possession statute, which was missing a word, and that is knowingly possess drugs. So they vacated the entire statute. The legislature during this legislative session tried to fix it, and in doing so, they basically said they were gonna drop the charge from a felony to a misdemeanor. But before a person could be charged, they had to be referred to a substance abuse program at least twice before they could be charged with a crime. So what that, for all intents and purposes, did is it made drug use legal for those folks that are using until that third time. And that third time, then at that point, then we could charge them. They also, at the same time, vacated all of the paraphernalia charges. So needles were no longer considered a crime. Smoking devices were no longer considered a crime. So all of the things that we would use to get a search warrant to find the drugs now have been found not illegal. And so that's a challenge for us because, again, our folks that are abusers or have some sort of addiction, they understand that in most cases they're not going to get caught. And so what we're finding, or not going to get charged. So what we're finding is we're responding to more cases of people using narcotics openly in public, knowing that the worst thing that's going to happen is we're going to show up and take it away from them, but they're probably not going to face any criminal consequences.
Yeah, those are challenging times for sure. Thank you for covering that. Also, the next topic that we have regarding crime, and I know some of these things we've sort of talked about, but Moses Lake is considered a high crime community. So we've seen that crime rate drop in recent years. In fact, it looks like it dropped 8% from 2019 to 2020, and then it was even cut in half from 2015 to 2019. So the City of Moses Lake Police Department has a high solved rate for victims, and in recent years it's really worked with our community, I know, to try to coach them and communicate to them on how not to be a victim. And really reaching out to our community, like through Facebook, which I love those Facebook posts, by the way. Thank you. Can you share a little bit more about what's being done as far as crime in our community?
Yeah, so this is actually a good thing for us. We were considered a high crime community. And I say were because the last couple of years, we have not been eligible for high crime money because we were no longer considered a high crime community.
Great.
So in the last few years, or I'd say 5 or 6 years, we have focused on reducing our crime rate. And we have been very successful in doing so. That has come through adding personnel, that has come through focusing on solving the crime. We do a great job once we are assigned, officers are assigned a case. They do their darndest to make sure that they get a resolution for that victim, and they do everything they can to try to solve that case. So we have seen, because our crime rate has dropped significantly the last few years, we have lost that designation of being a high crime city, which has been great. And you're right. I mean, we are solving cases, which is called clearing cases, or our clearance rate has been about 50%. Now, if you look at other communities around us, in most cases, their clearance rate is going to be in the 20 to 30% range. You look at sheriff's offices, specifically our local sheriff's offices, they're in the teens. So for us to be able to solve or clear cases in the 50 percentile, that is phenomenal. I mean, we are well above the state average, and so we're doing a great job of that. Obviously, what we want to do is we want to stop the crime before it happens if we can. Part of that is again focusing on our criminals, the ones that are known to us that are committing these types of crime. We will focus on getting them in jail as quick as we can, and trying to keep them there as long as we can, so that keeps our community safe. So we do a great job with that. I mentioned staffing. We've increased our staffing, but we've also last year we created a new model of response where we've split the city in half, and we've assigned officers to districts in this city. That shortens the response time when a call comes in. Plus, it gives the officers, it gives the community rather, more opportunity to see officers spread out through the city, patrolling in neighborhoods, just being present and visible, and visible not just for our community members, but for our criminals seeing us driving around, and as a deterrent, hopefully we'll reduce that. You mentioned the community outreach. Social media for us is huge. We reach out to the community as much as we can through our Facebook page, and we will continue to do that. About 4 years ago or so, we brought in on our website a program. It used to be called Crime Reports, and now it's called, and I'll have to have to go back and find what it's called now. It used to be called Crime Reports, and it's on our social media page, or our website. And citizens can go to that site, can pull up the crime map in Washington, in Moses Lake, and can see all the criminal activity in the city. And you can look in your respective community, in your respective neighborhood. You can look at certain times of the day, certain days of the week. And so you can see what's happening in and around you. And I talk about this a lot on my radio show on Friday mornings, that I encourage people to get on it and look to see what's going on in their neighborhood, because the more you're informed about what's going on in your neighborhood, the more proactive you can be in not being a victim. So if you know that there are vehicle prowls going on in your neighborhood, you know to keep your windows and doors locked, you know to keep your purse and your firearms and your valuables out of the car. So it just gives us a way to make sure that we've got people that are being proactive and keeping themselves safe. Plus, it gives us the opportunities to, if people know that there's crime going on in our neighborhood, and they hear something or see something and can remember the fact that there's something going on in their neighborhood, then maybe they're more apt to call us, and that gives us a better chance to try to find the person that's committing the crime. So these are all tools that we're trying to share with our community to help us reduce the crime, and once the crime happens, to help solve the crime, but also to keep people from being victims of crime.
Absolutely. Can you tell me more about where people can find your radio show?
So KDRM Friday mornings about 8:20. Every Friday morning I do a radio show. Every week I give some sort of a tip, as far as whether it's a driving tip, whether it's a crime that's going on in the community and things to watch for. Whatever it might be, we talk about boating safety, we talk about animal control. I mean, we talk about everything. And my show in the next couple of weeks will be about Halloween and keeping an eye out for kids at night, and making sure that people are driving slowly and kids are wearing reflective material. Excuse me.
You're good.
So it just every week is a different topic.
I love it. That's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Well, all right. So let's get on to the topic of homelessness. So, and again, we have Carrie. She's our with the city of Moses Lake, and she is our grants and homeless coordinator. So, Carrie, tell me a little bit more. So, the issue of homelessness is one that our community seems to be struggling with, as are other communities. We're just no exception, is all. Can you share a bit with us what's being done locally to help our homeless? And then also to address concerns that our residents may have on the issue. Where are the resources that our homeless can go? To start with, I guess would be a good place to start.
Mm-hmm. So in December of 2020, we opened the Open Doors Sleep Center. So it's an overnight sleep shelter that has 35 units. It's low barrier, so anyone who needs it can use it. We contract with Hope Source, who manages it. And so then they're also able to help people get any of the resources they need, help them with the jobs, mental health, help connect them to what they need. The Sleep Center also can provide meals and showers for people, and so they can also use the Sleep Center for those resources as well. Lately, there have been about an average of 20 people a night, so it's pretty busy. Since we've opened, we've had we'd call it bed nights, so the total of beds filled each night total. So we have over 4,000 bed nights, which includes over 300 unique guests. And I know a lot of people think, or rumors get spread, that a lot of the homeless people experiencing homelessness in the community are from somewhere else. Like people travel here from Seattle or Portland or get bussed in, but most of the people utilizing our sleep center are from Grant County. It's people here in our community. And through the sleep center, over 30 people have gotten and maintained jobs, and we've helped 6 people receive treatment. So there's been a lot of positive outcomes from that. And then we've also worked with Hope Source so they could acquire the enhanced shelter property. So that has 20 rooms. And that just opened this year. And since opening, there have been over 40 positive outcomes with rehousing clients. So that's been really exciting. The city is looking towards a long-term solution that's more of a one-stop shop for all, to provide all resources for people experiencing homelessness. So we are just in the beginning stages of that. So there aren't any plans at the moment, but we are looking towards the future for a long-term solution. I know some concerns that people have also with homelessness in the community, and the police does everything they can if someone is violating an ordinance or doing something they're not supposed to. The police is doing everything that they are allowed to. So we're aware of all the issues going on and addressing them as they happen and as we can.
That's great, thank you. And to talk a little bit more on the ordinance issue, can we talk just a little bit about as far as concerns for business or landowners, or so people sort of understand a little bit when you do see maybe a homeless camp. It's not that we're not providing resources. Yes, there's some ordinances, but can you kind of clarify that a little bit for us on that?
So if there have been more RVs parked in the streets, and so there's recently court decisions that said if an RV is parked on a city street, that it cannot be towed. So the police can warn them, but that's really all they can do. So, we're aware, we do warn them, but, the hands are tied. Obviously, the police and the code enforcement officers can only do what, they're allowed to based off, the state government and the court decisions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anything else you want to add on the topic or anything like that would be helpful for anybody? That gives us so much great information.
I just think overall, we are making a lot of progress and helping people who are experiencing homelessness get the resources they need. And so I just hope people know that we are moving in the right direction. We are making progress, but these things take time. So just keep being patient and we are moving forward.
That's great. I sure appreciate both of you so much, both Moses Lake Police Chief. Thank you so much, Kevin Fuhr, and also thank you so much again, Carrie Cortez, our Grants and Homeless Coordinator for the City of Moses Lake. So I really appreciate everything that you're doing for our community. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules to meet with me before this meeting and today to get the word out and share that. So I look forward to our continuing conversations on this. So again, thank you so much. And stay tuned, everyone, for more topics coming up in the coming weeks and months that'll be presented by our other Moses Lake lead members. So I appreciate that. Thank you again.
Thank you.